Greetings, and salutations, beautiful people in the beautiful world. It is me, he is I am him, Zach Latimer, Z-Lat, and welcome back to another segment of Right and Exact, a shout out to a new nation, and a shout out to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. You could be doing a lot of other things again, but you are here with me, and I do appreciate that. Today, what I want to talk about and what I want to build on is just some of the ways that we can shoot ourselves in the foot, right? Some of the ways that we can get in our own way. And a lot of times it just comes from, when we're trying to become new people, we don't want to deal with what we consider to be negative. We don't want to deal with some of the things that may make us feel uncomfortable about ourselves. We want to only hear the positive things. We never want to hear the negative things, but it is through the negative that we can now get to a positive. Sometimes through positive we can get to negative, but they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. You have to have some type of self-critique or self-assessment. Now, the ways that we can get in our own way, one of the ways that we can get in our own way is through control, right? You have some type of control freaks. And when one is a control freak, it typically speaks to one's ignorance of how the world works, or it speaks to some type of failure in one's life, okay? And through some type of failure that they have, then they want to try to control all of their situations. But now if you understand, control and ignorance go hand in hand. Ignorance can only exist within a controlled environment. Ignorance can't exist without a tunnel that it can belong in, right? So if the more you start to read, the more you start to take in new information, that's when the universe has to expand. It can't be in a controlled environment, so you can no longer be ignorant to the fact that there's other things going on around your own circumference of knowledge that you have. So once you start to expand that, then it starts to build and it starts to grow. So now you can no longer use the same excuse that you once had. Therefore, you no longer need to try to control your environment. Okay? Typically, control, a lot of people who try to control tend to fail at things that they do, trying to control everything around them. Okay? Now, the next one that I want to speak on is low sense of self-worth. And a low sense of self-worth is tied typically through our ego and our concept and our ego and how it connects to the concept of guilt. And that connection is usually a connection with the history. So with our ego, it sits in the mind, right? And in the mind is where we have our history, where we keep our history of all of our past events. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was sitting in a restaurant, and a lady was asking me about her phone, and she was saying how it wasn't working, and I just gave her some things that maybe you could look at to try to help you out with fixing her phone. And the first thing that she went into was, I'm just not good with electronics. And then she started giving me a rundown of every time she walks in there with some type of electronics, she's always messes it up. Pulling from her own history. So now if you walk into a situation saying that this is just what I'm going to do and I'm always going to screw these type of things up, well, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to start to shoot yourself in your own foot. Same thing happens in relationships. Same things happen if you've made a prior mistake or if you've done something that you feel like is not in alignment with growth. Then you always, when it's time to come to something new, you're going to pull your old history into it and you're going to screw up the new thing. Because you're going to, well, this always happens. I always mess up relationships that I'm in. I just seem to can't get right, and I seem to can't do this, and this always happens to me. So you're going to bring that into your new relationship, and then you're going to shoot yourself in your own foot. The other way that we can shoot ourselves in the own foot is through our bad habits, right? Our bad habits, because as we start, then the habits is connected to haberdashery, which is clothing or garments, which we're looking at is there's certain things that through certain levels that we're at that we need, and then there's other times where we don't need it. So, and as one starts to get exposed to different things, then you start to shed some of those habits, take on new things. So it's almost like if we're out in the sun, right? And you see a lot of people want to put on sunblock. They want to put on certain things to protect themselves from the sun. But at the same time, if they went and absorbed the sun, then they would adapt to their environment. Same thing if you went to some type of knowledge or some type of seminar and you start to expose yourself to what is going on in your environment around you, then you would start to adapt to it and you would gain new habits. But it's through your old habits that you bring along that you kind of want to protect yourself from everything else going on around you. Is now it's hard for you to go to another level. Another example of this is when you see people playing sports. They might train and they have a weight vest on, or they might do they add things on them so that when it's time to actually get in the game, then they can take it off and then much lighter. Well, that kind of correlates to when some people come in and they built this armor up, they put this weight on because in their environment they have to be slick at the mouth. They have to be engaging in a debate. They have to be arguing and they have to do all of this. But then when you go to another level where you have some other people saying, "Whoa, that's not how we do things around here. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation." But then you bring in your old habits into a new situation, and now you start to self-sabotage. You start to shoot yourself in the own foot because now you have to learn to let go of what you used to do to get something better, right? Addition through subtraction. We have to let go. And another way that we sometimes self-sabotage or we shoot ourselves in the own foot is through our sick need for excitement. Now I get it. All right. We all want to have a good time. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time, and I get it. But this comes down to sometimes even in a relationship. Women tend to like to go for a bad boy, right? They like to go for the dude with the leather jacket, and they want the whatever, the Tim's on. I want the bad boy, but they'll bypass the guy that's like, man, they say nice guys finish last. I was right here, but they want that need for excitement, the need for a thrill to be down here, but then all of a sudden find themselves in, how do I keep picking all of these trash guys? Well, you're sabotaging yourself and shooting yourself in your own foot, because now you want to pick this. And guys do the same thing because we go after the women that have this certain genetic quality, but we pass the woman that is, the one that's right, because we want that certain level of excitement. And we go after this and we end up getting what we get, and then we end up complaining about it. But at the same time, this is what we picked. We did this. So once you start to figure out, I have to make another decision. These are just some of the ways that we can shoot ourselves in the own foot, some of the ways that we hinder our own progress. And sometimes we need to figure out that the best addition comes through subtraction. And sometimes it doesn't feel good, and we like to avoid things by all costs if it brings us pain. But at the same time, once you start to hit that right in the head, then you can start to become anew. You can start to go to other places, and you can start to progress to a better you. All right. I will that you got something out of this. I will that you have a wonderful day. If you want to get deeper into this, you can go into Enlightenment and Transformation. And if you want to hit me up, you can hit me up on Instagram at Zach Latimer, ZACHLATIMER, or on Facebook at the same name, and we can chop it up. Have a wonderful day. I'm out. Until next time. Deuce.